New 72 Radio, the voice, views, and visions of the collective.
Hello, dear viewers. I'm Dr. Stela-Pavic, and I'm here with Miss Len Young and Rebecca Shaw, two of my dear friends and colleagues. We find each other in order to try to help learn better knowledge about helping other people dealing with a different issue in our life, and trying to combine our scientific background and try to offer certain solution for ourselves and as well as for you. So please let me give me a second to introduce myself. Dr. Stela-Pavic, medical doctor. Today our topic is anxiety, and I would love to tell you about anxiety from the scientific, medical point of the view, and as well as about anxiety from the personal point of the view. And through our session, I will be very clearly to distinguish those 2 points, because the medical and scientific anxiety is evidence-based, and I will provide you only with medical evidence-based data. But when I'm expressing my personal view, I will express that combination that I learn and study through my life, together with input from the people and input from the alternative community that God placed me into, and is allowing me to learn the different methods and different view, and eventually help to all of us. So as you know, Anxiety is a prevalence of anxiety disease in United States is around 28 to 30% of the population a year, or around 300 million people in the world. And it is more prevalent in the Western Europe and United States than anywhere else, and that's something to discuss later on why that could be. But it is definitely something that significantly is interfering with our life. Anxiety as a disease is a uncomfortable feeling of impending doom that could manifest with irrational fear of every moment or every second of your life, fear of the going to the work, fear of the waking up and feeling and facing the life situation, could be manifest with a headache, allergy symptom, gastrointestinal syndrome, pain in the stomach, with the smoking, with the overeating, whole bunch of the symptoms and signs. We call that anxiety disease, and in the medicine it's a qualify and distinguish with a different subcategory, like a generalized anxiety, social anxiety. If you hear and if you heard that from your doctor, you will find yourself there. Obsessive compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and so on. Those are diseases that they're requiring multidisciplinary approach to the situation. I would add to that my personal view that anxiety is everyday emotion in the majority of the people's life, but doesn't need necessarily to be developed in anxiety disease. And that's something that I would love to focus, and this is something why I'm here with the ladies that I'm going to introduce to you, in order to maybe today we'll learn together something that will help you the next morning to take that breath in and says, "Hurrah to life." Len Young.
So I'm Dr. Len Young, and I'm a PhD in psychology and practicing the Tomatis method as a sound trainer, a person with an expertise in using the sound program. So I would like to talk a little bit about the anxiety, since Stella has already described the difference between the medical and the personal. We can discuss many different types of anxiety. I have two specific areas that come to me very often with the tomatis needs. One is has a lot to do with time, and it addresses what you were saying, Stella, and talking about everyday life. Um, Often I find that it is an adult, and many times a parent, who is dealing with managing time. And they have their work, their children, their homes to take care of, a spouse, and then they have themselves. And very often their own well-being is sacrificed in order to take care of all these other areas. It's a stress. It's a word that the word stress is applied to, and it manifests in many ways. So in the work I do, I see it in unclear speech. Someone can start a sentence, stop in the middle of it, not complete their thought because their minds are racing. Their minds are on the many things they have to accomplish in the one day or the week or the month, or the many levels of people that they're addressing. It comes in interrupted sleep patterns, it leading to a lack of sleep, so leading to fatigue and increased and accumulated fatigue. It comes in panic attacks and fear. Stella, you mentioned some of that, and not getting things done. And these can cause some of those physical ailments that Stella was mentioning, or even just everyday things. Your body might not respond as quickly to picking up the basket of clothes that are so full, or your bags of groceries from the store because you're just tired and your muscles are tired. So anxiety and or stress in everyday life comes to me as a tomatis consultant because people are seeing changes in the way they function in their everyday lives. Another thing that I see is with young children when they're first going off to school, going to kindergarten. Of course, there's so many different levels of readiness before a child goes to kindergarten, but there can be an anxiety of separation, and that there's a natural process of separating from parents. So it's important to occur. It's very important for children to have that experience, but there can be another process of socialization. And if a child has not had much exposure to other children, there is tentativeness in coming to a situation like that. And they can have some fears that arise, become a little nervous, have some of the physical issues that Stella had mentioned. And what I'd like to do in a little while is talk to you about some of the examples that I see specifically in my practice, and talk about having a choice, that this is a time in our lives when we all have a choice of how we take care of ourselves, how we view the importance of our taking care of our lives so that the whole world around us can function well and successfully. And so, Rebecca, you have a really wonderful practice in hypnotherapy. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with anxiety?
Great, thank you. So I've been a clinical hypnotherapist for 22 years, and it's been my full-time work. And in that time, I would say that in an overarching sense, anxiety is the number one problem that comes through my door. And I say that because so often people come with other problems. Let's say they have insomnia, like you said, or overeating. They have chronic fatigue. There's so many issues that anxiety underlies the problem, whether it's for test taking, even smoking. So oftentimes when I'm working with clients, what we really want to look at first is what are the stresses in their lives. And something that many people come they actually have the physical symptoms of anxiety, which people might be familiar with the fight or flight response, which is where your heart's actually racing, your breathing has shifted, your mind can't focus. And those are the actual symptoms of anxiety that many people experience. At night, when people are trying to sleep, many people who suffer from anxiety will get what's called that monkey mind, or the mind that just won't shut down, and then they can't go to sleep. And that's another area where many people really notice their anxiety. And then beyond that, if you really break it down, some people tend to ruminate on the past. Their anxiety comes from rerunning stories of unpleasant situations or conversations they had, and they wish they said something different. So they're ruminating on the past, and when they run those stories through their mind, it's hitting their nervous system. It hits your nervous system for some people as if it's real. Basically, you're re-experiencing that stressful situation. Then other people worry about the future. They worry about some coming event that they're perceiving could be stressful. It may or may not happen, but people tend to worry quite a bit about things that might happen, and that can create immense anxiety for people. People want to have a feeling or a sense of control over things, but the more they worry, the less peaceful they feel. And to give each of you credit and to not feel so bad if you have these habits of worry or ruminating, from the clinical hypnosis perspective, the subconscious mind is worrying about those things in the future because it perceives this idea that if I worry about those things, I can control those things. And if I don't worry about those things, then I won't control them. And it's really funny. I had a woman who came to me once who had excessive itching, but she would itch more when she was anxious. And so we were talking about working through her anxiety and giving her tools to get rid of them. And she said, I'm Italian. I'm an Italian mother. I'm anxious. That's what I do for a living. People pass down even these whole coping mechanisms and way. For many people, anxiety is a way of being that it's almost, I wouldn't say it's comfortable, but they're accustomed to it, and it seems to serve a purpose. So I would say, as we go along and continue this conversation, that to address your anxiety in a multidisciplinary approach, which is what you said, Stella, is what this group, Healthy You, is all about, is that oftentimes the solution to a problem is finally discovered or finally rendered once we address a problem from the medical standpoint, from other ways of looking at it that most of us wouldn't even think of, like Len with the ear and how we're hearing and how we're processing sound. It's amazing to me. But what we hope that you'll gain from this experience as we share and talk on these topics is this idea that perhaps the solution to a problem like anxiety will be unlocked for you through a multidisciplinary approach from exploring from a mind, body, spirit level.
Thank you, ladies. I would love to add something for all of you. I would love that everybody right now notice the position of your body right now. And if you do not mind, if everybody just can get up and stretch a little bit as a healing method, releasing anxiety from our body. This is why we have a yoga, Pilates, and exercise as the first and one of the biggest tools to help us all. Stretching from the bottom of your heart, try to do this every morning, even before you wake up. For those of you who love yoga, Pilates, and other exercises, my congratulations. This is the one of the way on which we can start our days and release those tensions in our muscles who preventing us of the deep breathing. So the second things I would love to teach you, and what I learned in my medical practice, what I learned, not just anxiety that then can cause the different other diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, and lung disease. People actually do not know how to breathe, how to take a deep breath in and deep breath out. Many smokers, friends of mine, as a former smoker, will notice that they feel release from the anxiety when they take like that deep breath in and deep breath out. So I would strongly advise all of you who are listening us right now or who have any question to take a deep breath, like with that imagination that Rebecca will later on lead you through it, or my friend Len through the music and understanding relaxation methods. Like you're on the best place you can imagine. Remember that breathing when you are in ocean or mountains. Whenever you need to make a decision about certain planning of your day, about very important meeting that you may have, about discussing difficult situations that your children or your husband can bring in your life, difficult decision, remember before you're talking to take that deep breath and release that pressure in your chest and in your stomach. Those are one of the physical methods that can relieve everyday stressors from your life, decrease anxiety trail that you may have from the habitual learning how to behave. As Rebecca says, Italian woman and Croatian woman, we also live by, anxiety is a part of our life. We actually nourish that and cherish that, we're running and never had it, taking the nap and everything else. Many of my American friends, oh my God, I don't know how you're doing with all of those sports activity and piano and that success in life. And our children are overwhelming absolutely with economic anxiety in early age. So with all of those, knowing before any decision, stretch, exercise, breathe, and imagine. Because this group has something to offer to you from personal experience and from professional experience. Healthy youth, healthy you. So, for all of my brothers and sisters in the Christ, I want you to remember and to know that we need to focus on ultimate good that we know that is existing, and that every moment in our life is actually ultimate good, and to help us to forget that fear of the tomorrow, the fear of the next moment, to fear of the failure, to fear of unacceptance, to all kind of those fears that we carrying from certain period of our life, from the childhood through the puberty, difficult puberty, through the growing, through the trying to meet expectation that everybody else post and position for us. Remember that you are actually in the path of discovering yourself and discovering ultimate good that this life actually is a carrying. So with that in the mind, I'm going to give the talk to my friend Len that she can contribute for your well-being today, my friends.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Stella. It's part of all of our practices to begin our days with a very positive feeling, even before you get out of your bed. At the moment, it's my practice every day to say, today is a great day. I love myself. I talk to myself before I put my foot on the floor. And everybody has their own practices, and we're in many different cultures. But as we embrace ourselves, if you create for yourself 5 minutes that is focused on you, you'd be surprised at how wonderful your day could feel. It helps you meet challenges and enjoy successes. It will help you address your good feelings and your bad feelings, and it is part of the way actually that I approach my practice. And I think that the other two of you would agree that the reason we came together to even start this show is that we have a very similar approach to life, which is we love life. We see the joy in it. We see the joy of knowing other people and anyone who comes into our spheres. We like to help people. We're healers. We're healers from different standpoints, and we bring together our knowledge bases that we hope will open up areas you might not have known about. One of the reasons that we even talked about doing this is that everyone seems to be seeking in this world. There is such a need to answer questions. And excuse me, the more opportunities there are to find some answers, the more possibilities that someone can find a cure or can find someone else who can lead them to a way to ease whatever is going on in their lives, or to help a child, or to help a parent, to address how we can live more easily and lovingly in the world. So I wanted to also, this is really important for us to discuss, Stella and Rebecca, is why we even are doing this, and I'm glad we have a little time to do it. I did want to bring up a couple of examples of people, well, one example particularly of a client who came to me and how I approached it. And I think it might help everyone in how you live your life. So I have a mother in her 40s, a mother of 4. She is in medical school at this point, in her 40s, and she has a professional husband. She's taking care of her children, and she worries all the time. She's at the point that she's on the verge of tears all day. If you talk to her or say anything nice to her, she just dissolves, because her whole resistance and her system is just raw. I mean, it's on the edge. And the first thing I do when anybody comes to me is listen. What are they saying to me? What are they not saying to me? What is it that I hear that's going on in their lives that I might be able to help, or might be able to put a different light on, even going into the Tomatis work. And I find if you can spend, all of us can spend 3 or 4 minutes with a family member or a friend when they seem stressed or anxious about something, that it will contribute so much toward our whole culture and all of our society relaxing somewhat. I made a commitment probably 25 years ago to do a little less community work, but to speak to people when I saw them and spend time with them. So in the grocery store, if I see a friend I haven't seen for years, and I say, "How are you?" and he or she says, "Well, I'm fine," that tells me it's not totally fine. And I take the time then, probably 10 or 15 minutes, to say, "Oh, catch me up on what you're up to, what's going on with your family." And I start the conversation, and then they can unload. And I may not be able to give them any help right at that moment, except to have them unload. And that can do a lot for the body. It can de-stress the lungs and the heart, and might even give them a chance to take a deep breath. I mean, I don't know, Rebecca and Stella, do you have similar situations? It's something I still do today, and I find I spend a lot of hours in my day talking to people I haven't seen or I've just met, because I feel like that's something I'm giving to society, and it gives it to me too. It's greatly rewarding. What do you think, Rebecca?
That's beautiful, Len. You make the world a better place, just bringing your light. Yeah, I do talk to people quite a bit all day. So if I see four people back to back, that's about 6 hours straight of talking. But I love it. And my approach, one thing I would say is, after working with thousands of people on the topic of anxiety, or after identifying that what they're really struggling with is anxiety, even though they might come for emotional eating or insomnia, is there's typically some steps I take people through. And the first one is giving them techniques to retrain the body to relax when you feel stress or anxiety. So Stella, I loved what you said about the breathing. I actually attended a health fair this weekend and met a doctor from MUSC, Medical University of South Carolina, for those of you who don't know what that is. And he is a radiation oncologist, and he has actually done studies to show that breathing changes your physiology, and he uses saliva testing to prove that. So you absolutely hit the nail on the head, that even just breathing can really improve your anxiety if you take the time to do it. And that's the funny thing, is sometimes it's these little things that can really make a difference in improving your situation and easing your anxiety. And it needs to be something easy and simple to do, or most of us won't take the time to do it. So again, one of the first steps that I teach people is how to have a relaxation response to stress and your own stressful thoughts, instead of that fight or flight response. The fight or flight response is people tending to react to something stressful by wanting to fight or flee and run away. So it puts their body into tension to flee or fight. And instead, you learn to direct your body to relax when you're having those stressful moments. So you would check your shoulders and drop your shoulders. And the example I like to give are professional athletes. I would say that most professional athletes have developed the skill or been taught the skill to do the relaxation response under pressure when they're stressed. They have anxiety because, they've got to perform, performance anxiety. So you'll see, for example, basketball players, before they shoot that free throw shot, they shake it off. Baseball players, pitchers, they shake it off. So they are doing the relaxation response in response to physical anxiety, and then even thought anxiety, or the thoughts that go through your mind. And then typically the second tool or session that I'll do with people is teaching them how to stop those anxious thoughts. And we all know that usually it doesn't work to just say, don't think about it. Someone will say, oh, don't worry about it. And it's really almost impossible for someone who has a pattern of anxiety to just say to themselves, don't think about it. It would be like me saying, don't think about a purple elephant in your living room, and you think about it to try to not think about it. So the best thing many people can do is learn some tools to not only stop the physical anxiety, learn the relaxation response, but also learn to direct their mind to focusing on what you want to have happen, and directing your mind to more positive thinking, even going to a peaceful place, even just being present and focusing on your breathing, focusing on someone else. Don't we all feel a little bit better, and we forget our own stresses when we run into someone and we see they're not feeling good, and we talk to that person? So there's lots of techniques that you can learn to break out of the cycle of anxiety. And what I love about hypnosis and some of the other right brain tools that I teach in my office is they're very creative ways to approach anxiety, and they're also ways that you can integrate into your everyday life, which is, as I said earlier, really important.
Well, I'm going to jump in here, and we've come to the end of our time already, ladies, and thank everyone for listening, and particularly thank my daughter-in-law, I noticed, who has been listening. Thanks, Cheryl. It's our first time, and we're thrilled. We'll be back in a month for another half an hour, and we welcome your questions, and this is great. Come visit us.
And remember, breathe.
Breathe. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.